God of War just got some bad news. As you guys know, we were set to get some sort of remastered collection or a remake game this year. If you guys have watched my channel, you guys know I reported on a previous leak / rumor of a potential remake in the works. Actually, there was supposed to be a full-on God of War Remastered Collection for the PS5 as well as the PC. Well, it turns out our dream was actually a nightmare, and PlayStation, under the leadership of Jim Ryan, continues to haunt us till this day. It just so happens that BluepointGames was developing a God of War game, but not the God of War game that we all wanted. We have a lot to talk about, guys, so check the video chapters for easy viewing, and let's get started. So for those of you that don't know, God of War's Remastered Collection has been the subject of a bunch of rumors, specifically surrounding the game's 20th anniversary in March of 2025, which the collection was set to include games like God of War 1, God of War 2, God of War 3, along with the spin-offs like God of War Chains of Olympus, Ghost of Sparta, and God of War Ascension. Now, this remastered collection was rumored that Nix's Software, who is known for porting games and remastering games, would be the primary developer behind the remaster, rather than Santa Monica Studios, or in this case, BluepointGames, which we thought BluepointGames was working on a from-the-ground-up remake for God of War, and it turns out they were working on something God of War, it just wasn't what we thought it would be. And this brings us to today's unfortunate news, which honestly, it's a bit unfortunate, but then again, it's like also good news. And this is coming from Bloomberg, Jason Schreier. And in his report, he said Sony cancels 2 more PlayStation projects in broader retreat. The article then went on to say that Sony Group Corp's PlayStation has canceled previously unannounced games of 2 of its top subsidiaries, the company said Thursday. So this is coming straight from Sony themselves. The games at Oregon-based Bin Studio and Texas-based BluepointGames were both working on live service projects designed to draw reoccurring revenue from players. So yes, more of the live service Jim Ryan policies are coming to haunt us again. The article then went on to say a company spokesperson confirmed the cancellations. In a statement, the spokesperson said the 2 games were canceled following a recent review, and that PlayStation will continue making both online and single-player games. It was then confirmed that neither studio will be shuttered. In the statement, the spokesperson said, Bend and Bluepoint are highly accomplished teams who are valued members of the PlayStation Studios family, and we are working closely with each studio to determine what are the next projects. Jason then went on to say, over the last few years, PlayStation has invested big in live service games, which are typically multiplayer games with microtransactions and other ways to get money out of players for months and years after they launch. These games can be risky ventures, but can be lucrative when they're successful. They then said for Sony, the strategy has led to 1 hit with 2024's Helldivers 2 and several flops, including Concord, which was removed from sale 2 weeks after it was released. The company has also canceled several other live service projects over the last few years, including one based on Spider-Man. The article then said that Sony didn't say if the cancellations will lead to job cuts. In a memo to staff reviewed by Bloomberg, the company said it's working closely with Bend and Bluepoint to determine what are their next projects and plan to do everything we can to ensure that there's minimal business impact. But this is where things get interesting. According to Jason Schreier, he said fans have long wondered what Bluepoint has been working on for the last couple of years, and he's now able to report it was a live service God of War game, which that is just absolutely wild to me. The fact that Jim Ryan, under his leadership, as well as the current co-CEO Herman Holst, had BluepointGames, one of the most respected game developers in terms of remaking games and remastering games, had them working on a live service God of War game is just blasphemy. Like, they could have been cooking up a Bloodborne remaster. They could have been cooking up like God of War 1, a full remake from the ground up for all of this time. But the fact that they were working on a live service God of War game really pains my heart. It's like, dude, what are you doing with that talent? And then to cancel it on top of that, it's like, dude, you had these guys working on a live service game and then you canceled it, and now all of their time was just spent for nothing. And that's not to mention Bend Studio, which I'll talk about in a bit, but the fact that you had Bluepoint working on something that's live service is really just unfathomable. Like, I really hope that they weren't just working on one project. But from what the spokesperson said, it sounds like that was the only thing that they were working on, which puts any new remake or remaster from BluepointGames back to square one, essentially. Like, in some ways I get it. Like, PlayStation is a business, they have to be able to make revenue, and when you have studios like Naughty Dog and Sony Santa Monica, Sucker Punch Productions all working on large-scale AAA games, you have to find a way to make revenue in between those games, so doing a live service approach made sense at the time. Now granted, we didn't expect there to be this many live service games, especially taking a studio that is known for single player projects and then putting them onto something multiplayer. Like, that was always going to be a recipe for disaster. And then you consider, like, that's not the only studio working on something live service. You have Naughty Dog that had a live service game as well with the Last of Us factions. You had Guerrilla Games that is actively working on a Horizon multiplayer game. It's like, what was Jim Ryan and Herman Holst thinking? It really puts PlayStation Studios in a really weird spot. It's like you had all of these really well-respected single-player devs who were forcibly put on live service stuff, and then they're trying to like pick up the pieces from there. Like, what an absolute disaster. Like, you know that the single-player games are what drives your customers to buy a PlayStation, and all of these live service games in the works are probably why we haven't had many PlayStation Studios games in a while. Like, they're lucky that Team Asobi cooked so hard with Astrobot. Imagine the alternative. If Astrobot didn't win Game of the Year, then all they really had was Helldivers 2, Stellar Blade, which was really solid. Helldivers was also good. Concord, Rise of the Ronin, and then Astrobot. Like, it was a solid year, but if Astrobot didn't win Game of the Year, then the perception of PlayStation probably wouldn't be as good as it was going into 2025. And really, it's all thanks to Concord for being such a flop, for kind of changing Sony's mentality. Like, imagine if Concord sold relatively well and had a good player base. They would probably still be greenlighting just as many live service projects from single player studios. So yeah, thank you Concord for flopping. So while today's news is bad that we're not going to get a God of War remake from BluepointGames and it was a live service game that they were working on, it is a little bit unfortunate, but it's also good news that they're canceling a live service God of War game. So hopefully Bluepoint will now be able to develop something single player, hopefully something God of War related, or if we're really lucky, a Bloodborne remake. So what does this mean for the future of a God of War remake or a God of War Remastered Collection? Well, if PlayStation was smart, they would do one of two things. Either give BluepointGames the opportunity to make something completely original and unique, because let's be honest, we know that they're capable, or they give them the green light to remake something either God of War related or possibly a Bloodborne remake. Now, it's obviously like impossible to speculate what they're going to be working on because they don't even know what they're working on, but I would say whatever it is likely won't be God of War related. Now, they might be able to reuse assets and stuff like that, but I just doubt it. And then I don't think we're going to get a remake for Bloodborne anytime soon. If we get it, it's probably not going to be happening for the next like 5 to 10 years. I think the only thing we're getting with that game is like a 60 FPS patch, like at bare minimum. So that's why I think whatever Bluepoint does will likely be something original, because I do think that they're a good studio that's proven themselves and they deserve a chance to make something original. So where does the God of War Remastered Collection or a remake come into play? Well, considering all of the rumors are suggesting that a remastered collection would be in development from Nix's software, it is still possible that we could get something God of War related for the 20th anniversary, which is this March of 2025. Like, BluepointGames and Nix's software are completely separate companies, and just because something from BluepointGames was, canceled doesn't mean that Nix's software hasn't been in development and is currently still developing a God of War collection. Now, who knows? Do we know that Nix's software is actually still working on a remastered collection? No, because it's mainly just rumor at this point. Typically, whenever there's smoke, there's usually fire, and there's been a lot of smoke for a God of War Remastered Collection. And like, it's God of War's 20th anniversary, you would think that they would want to do something extravagant to celebrate the character Kratos turning 20. Another thing is worth considering is the fact that PlayStation has been releasing a lot of their games on PC, and the fact that you have the God of War games 2018 and God of War Ragnarok are already on PC and have sold incredibly well. It would make sense to release that collection on PC as well, to give those people who have never played the originals and have only ever experienced God of War 2018 and Ragnarok, give them the ability without emulation to experience God of War's Greek saga. But once March of 2025 comes around, we will know pretty definitively on whether or not there's a remastered collection or not. Heck, it might be next month that we learn as well, because there's a rumored state of play that's happening in February of 2025. So if they plan on releasing a God of War Remastered Collection in March of this year, it would make a lot of sense for them to reveal it during a big state of play in February. But yeah, guys, that's going to wrap it up with this video. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section. What do you think the God of War live service game would be? Personally, I think it was going to be a roguelike game, similar to what we had with God of War Ragnarok, the Valhalla DLC, which that was roguelite. Do you agree it should have been canceled? Leave your comments below, guys. That's going to wrap it up with this video. Thanks for watching. And until next time, this has been Wes, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video.